I think the President, the White House, made the point last night that, quite simply, President Putin cannot be empowered to wage war or engage in aggression against Ukraine or anyone else. As you know, and as you've heard us say repeatedly, we do not have a strategy of regime change in Russia or anywhere else for that matter.
Look, the president had spent the day visiting with Ukrainian refugees. In the moment, I think that was a principled human reaction to the stories that he had heard that day.
We have the White House backtracking and U.S. officials backtracking what sounded like a blatant call for regime change from the U.S. president. And the U.S. president is supposed to be the head of state who represents the country and articulates correctly what its foreign policy is. It sounds like the foreign policy of the United States is to topple and overthrow the Russian government, remove its head of state from power.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain power.
Now, it's also important to note that there have been a number of occasions where Joe Biden has said things about the Russian leader that they're rather unclear, right? I mean, he's used very provocative language to describe the Russian president, and then in some instances rolled it back or corrected himself. I mean, he's not very articulate when it comes to explaining what the U.S. policy toward Russia really is.
You know Vladimir Putin, you think he's a killer?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So what price must he pay?
The price he's going to pay, well, you'll see shortly.
Does President Biden regret calling Vladimir Putin a killer?
No, the president gave a direct answer to a direct question.
And you're going to see when you're there, and some of you have been there, you're going to see women, young people stand in the middle in front of a damn tank.
The president has been clear we are not sending U.S. troops to Ukraine, and there is no change in that position.
No. I think he is a war criminal.
Not clear messaging from the president of the United States when it comes to dealing with Russia. Now, at this point, we have many countries around the world that want to bring an end to hostilities in Ukraine. They want the situation with fighting and dying taking place to be brought to an end. They want negotiations to resolve the fighting, bring a ceasefire, and end the hostilities. So many European leaders, including many members of NATO, longtime U.S. allies, are not thrilled about what Joe Biden said.
I wouldn't use this kind of words. If we want to do this, we mustn't escalate, neither with words nor with actions.
How helpful or otherwise was the US President Joe Biden seeming to call for regime change in Russia on Saturday, but then rowing back in Washington yesterday? Sakir, morning, by the way, thanks for coming in.
Not helpful. To say something, to row back, big thing to say for obvious reasons.
I think we need de-escalation. Military de-escalation and rhetorical de-escalation.
Now, if you look at the polls here in the United States, Joe Biden's approval rating is tanking. Americans are not happy about the domestic situation, the crumbling infrastructure, the rising price of fuel, the rising price of food, a lot of unrest at home, a lot of folks just not thrilled with how the Biden administration is doing things. They promised to pick up the pieces from Trump and correct the errors of his mismanagement of the pandemic that they accused him of, and things have just gotten worse. And a number of Americans are wondering if Joe Biden should perhaps focus on trying to improve the situation domestically than trying to intensify the flames of international problems around the world by calling for the toppling and overthrow of the Russian president. So not a lot of clarity coming from Washington when it comes to dealing with Russia and their response to the conflict.